The month of January is starting out as a very warm month for the majority of the country, along with a historic parade of atmospheric rivers causing major flooding in the western United States. So many places across the country have experienced spring-like temperatures to start off the month, and we will likely continue to experience this abnormally warm weather for a little while longer. It's not just the United States experiencing this warm air, because numerous European countries are reporting record warmth this month, with overnight temperatures even warmer than the summer overnight average. Without a doubt, a lot of people are questioning when this warmth will finally go away, so on this video, I'm going to break down my personal forecast for the month of January, and when we may start seeing colder air and even big snowstorms coming back. Let's get straight into the video. For this section of the video, I'm going to be reviewing my forecast for each 7-day period of January. First off, this is my forecast for January 5th to the 12th. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, this month has started off with a relentless train of storms out west, which is bringing historic rainfall to the region. The area in the green is where I expect this trend to continue through at least January 12th, with the worst of the rain and snow in the dark green shade, over southwest Oregon, western Nevada, and a large area of California. If we take a look at the precipitation anomaly for this time frame, we see that far above normal precipitation is expected during this time, with the concentration in central and northern California. I'm also predicting a relatively calm period for the eastern two-thirds of the country, with mainly just some small-scale events expected. If we move to January 12th to the 19th, we can see that things remain relatively similar to the previous time frame, except for this large blue area that I have shaded in. This doesn't necessarily mean snowfall for the areas in this region, but it represents where we have storm threats. Multiple weather models are suggesting that the next couple of substantial storms could develop after January 12th, with snow in the north, and rain and potentially severe storms to the south. It's too early to know what certain areas may receive from these potential storms, which is why I have such a large part of the country in the blue shade. Outside of that, we still see this green shaded region out west, which remains similar to the previous map I showed. This is because the threat of western storms will likely persist even past the middle of January. And lastly, we have a gray shaded region from Montana and the Dakotas down to Mexico, as well as the Florida Peninsula. This is where I expect mostly uneventful weather, with nothing too impactful expected. Next up, we are taking a look at January 19th to the 26th. Once we get to this time frame, I really think things are going to start getting interesting. Once again, we have a large blue area across the east, meaning that there is a chance for some substantial storms in that time frame. There is also multiple states across the east with a black outline around them. This represents an increased chance of wintry weather, and this is due to the potential for a shift in the storm track. It's looking possible that as we get into late January, cold air will finally make a comeback, and with above normal precipitation anomalies possibly in place, we could certainly be looking at the chance of some southern snowstorms and even nor'easters. I think we are finally going to start seeing the western storms slowly calm down as we head towards the end of January, which is why there is only a light green layer over the southwestern region of the country. And, lastly, we have a large gray area from the northwest down into the Florida Peninsula, which as we know represents mainly dry and uneventful weather. Once we reach the last few days of January, I think the pattern may become even more favorable for wintry weather in the south. If we take a quick look at the precipitation anomalies, we see that there is a signal of above normal precipitation in the mid-south, which means that there is a chance that moisture will be in place if cold air meets up with it in time. Another thing we can take a look at is the climate forecast system weather model. This weather model may not be accurate, especially if we go too far out into the future. The interesting thing with this model is that during the last few days of January, it shows a system cutting through the southern tier of the country, which means that the storm track may be further south, therefore increasing snowfall chances from the south-central part of the country into the southeast and mid-Atlantic. This is certainly an interesting trend, but please make sure you take this with a grain of salt, since certain aspects of this forecast will change. For the final portion of the video, I wanted to show my overall forecast for January. Very wet conditions with even major flooding problems are expected in the western United States, especially over California, Nevada, and Oregon. The light blue shade represents mainly dry and cold weather, with the potential of a few storms bringing snow from time to time. The light brown shade over the Gulf Coast, Florida, and even the southern high plains represents dry weather, with only some occasional precipitation expected. Lastly, the large purple area over the central and eastern United States represents where I expect big changes in late January, with snow possible for parts of the south and the east coast. And that concludes today's update. If you enjoyed this weather analysis, please consider subscribing for more videos just like this one.